I am so attracted to startups and this whole startup world because I was in between like China and US at that point of time that I was like I could go to US also, I could go to China also. That's how we actually started building this network, like a WhatsApp group. So many calls. I can't my days to start and end with calls, and I used to be like, okay, already 9 p.m. Okay, already 10 p.m. Okay. Yeah, so my introduction to China was not again from the finance point of view. It was more from a cultural, diplomatic, geopolitics point of view, that it's our biggest neighbor, but we don't know much about it. So just recently, I think Web Summit in Qatar, right? It was the first event in Asia, and I was talking exactly about this, the India opportunity.
So Bytedance is the TikTok parent.
Is the TikTok parent company, correct? So I had joined it before TikTok was an international thing. Infra is good. The pollution is also improved. There's no more like dusty cloud and all. It's clean and clear. Then why am I staying there? Why am I not closer to the family? The consumption pattern, as you know, Gen Z is more into consumption. Like, they're not saving at all. They are, I mean, just imagine, right? We've had access to Chinese products for a while.
Yeah.
Even that was being monitored for a while. I remember there was a time when Zuckerberg had made some statements on TikTok and all the engineers were like listening to what he's saying, because it matters what he says.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to LevelUp, a podcast brought to you by Lakhani Financial Services. On today's episode, we have a special guest with us. She is a woman torchbearer in a male-dominated venture capital ecosystem. Starting her career in the media field and then coming to startup and venture capital ecosystem, she has invested in over 100 plus startups. Welcome Bhawna Bhatnagar, the co-founder of VFounder Circle, Avinya VC and EvolveX. How are you doing today, Bhawna?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me today, and looking forward to this exciting podcast.
Wonderful, wonderful. So just before we started rolling this, right, I said that you are, looking, and you are like a obedient, a sincere student, but with some kind of masti and that, chulbuliness inside you. Tell us something. We like to do this a little bit different. People know who Bhawna Bhatnagar is in the startup ecosystem, and now I think globally also, because you attend so many events and stuff. Tell us something that we don't know about, something which I just discovered right now, but something else also what people don't know about you.
I think if people don't know me that much, they may think I'm very serious, as a person. But I think if they know me or start to know me a little bit, they'll realize I'm super goofy, And I think for a VC, this is very interesting because people come with a expectation of a super serious conversation. But I end up making a lot of friends, or I'm able to sort of break that ice very fast. And I think that is partly because, while yes, we do a lot of serious business, we're, investing money, but I think there's a very human touch that you need to give in this business, because startups is, yes, about business, but it's also about people, and people who are building it, people who are sort of taking that big step or trying to do something new. It takes a lot of courage. So, there's this underlying emotional human quality that also, you need to provide. And I think I'm able to do that very well, and I'm able to sort of break that ice with my, sometimes stupid jokes, or like how you said, I think you just made a very slight remark on that as well. So yeah, I think that is something that people would not know about me in the beginning, but as they sit, like you're sitting here having a conversation with me, you'll realize. Yeah.
So we're going to get some more goofy and some other comments very soon.
Yes, for sure. I will not leave any opportunity to pull your leg. Yes.
Great. All right. So so I think we're going to get a lot of goofy stuffs in this podcast. So I'm looking forward to it, whether you pull my leg or when I can.
Yes, fingers crossed, yes.
Okay. Chalo. Tell me how you were as a kid growing up. How good were you academically? Naughtiness to dikh raha hai. So, what were you, did your parents keep getting complaints about you? Run us through a little bit about your growing up years.
I think I was slightly level-headed for my age. It's a very weird thing. Children don't have that. Children do stupid things. I didn't do too many stupid things. I was pretty self-aware, as a child, and I think I don't know the genesis of it, like how it happened, but I remember that I was at least not as naughty as my other siblings. So for my parents, as what my parents tell me is that it was good to have me after my sister, because my sister was super naughty and I was like a reprieve, like acha, so lesser complaints and not that difficult to handle. And then my brother came, he was also naughty. So I don't know if it was a middle child thing or what was it. I balanced it out in some ways. So that was great. But on the other side, I was super talkative. I just liked talking to people. I think one complaint that my parents got from teachers a lot is that she keeps talking. She's a chatterbox. Like, someone stop her from talking, like she's talking in between the classes, you're talking in the classes, she just makes, like, she has some sort of bonding with people, and then she just talks, and the teachers are wondering, what is she talking about? Where is this content coming from? So I think that was one thing that I very clearly remember people complaining about a lot. I think also it was interesting that you used this one word about term for me, which is called chulbuli or something, because a lot of people used to use that about me when I was young.
Wow.
And I was not very sure if it meant a good thing or a bad thing. And it was somewhere in between always. So I used to hear that about myself, that I was always like a little excited about everything, So I think that curiosity and that energy continues till this date. I'm excited about a lot of new things. That's partly why I am so attracted to startups and this whole startup world, because I didn't get introduced to this world because of putting money or in being an investor. It never attracted me. What attracted me to this world was that I met so many interesting people who were building something new. And that just caught my attention, and I liked how people used to start something new and make it big. That was very fascinating for me, and I think till date, that is what continues to drive me. So that's a little bit about my childhood, and I was a very good kid. A parent would want a kid like me.
But you were good academically also, like, and
academically.
What is your education?
Yeah, so I would say primary school and all, I was always like a good, like, first, third in the class and all of that.
That's not good. That's very.
That's very good. Yeah, I don't remember being stressed about studies, so I was not one of those people. Like, for example, my sister could be an overachiever, right? I mean, being stressed ki 99 nahi aana chahiye, 100 aana chahiye type. I was like, acha, 100 nahi aaya, but 95 aega to bahut hi acha hai. Matlab, I used to be that super
Still you are
chill.
better than like most.
Yeah, I never used to be ki I'm running after perfection to the level where I'm scared what happens if I get 5 marks less. That was never me. I used to be very happy with the 91, 92 or whatever. I'm like, yeah, ho gaya, chalo, that's good.
That's good.
But I also went through different phases wherein I changed schools, and sometimes when you change schools, it's a very different environment, going from one place.
Cities or something, or in the same, like in
so
Mumbai?
Because my parents
Born and brought up in Mumbai?
No, born and brought up in Delhi. So my parents were in government service, so we had to move a little bit in the city itself.
Okay.
So because of the geography, sometimes we were moving from one place to another, we had to also change schools. And because of that, you go from one school to another, you leave your friends behind, you leave a certain type of environment where you're comfortable in behind. So that also impacts you, right? So I went through that cycle where, I went during the transition, I would be like a little unsettled. So there were periods where I didn't do well in academics, but I think till like across, I would say till 12th, I did decent. Like I was an average student. I was never bad. I was always average, and teachers loved me because I was super sincere. Like teachers loved me. They always had good things to say about me. I had good attendance. I would dress well. I used to talk properly. So that way, I never had any issues, or complaints, big complaints about me. And the talking part also, changed over time where, I used to not talk as much when I
Because
grew
of
up.
this change
I think
in
certain
places
maturity,
and
new friends, correct. All of those things sort of played a role in, me developing in a certain way. And academically, I was very, some things that I loved, I would do better than most in those subjects. For example, my language skills were very good. Right, I was not that great at math in higher, like 9th, 10th, but I picked up in 11th, 12th. So I was like easy 95, 96 I used to get. I used to love math after that. I got a good teacher. And I loved things where it required logic. For example, physics, I would do well. But wherever it required rote learning, there I sucked. I was one of those people that I didn't crack the code on how to memorize, completely, like, those terms that you need to put in your mind and, vomit them in the paper.
Like I did for you.
Okay, my intro was not that technical, but, like in chemistry, sometimes like that inorganic chemistry, for example, like you could be stuck with different formulas and all of that. So I had those things that, it didn't excite me. Like it was boring for me sometimes when I had to just, mug up things. So that I realized about me, that if something is boring, like this, where I just have to cram something and put it on the paper, it's not going to be me. However, it took me a while to realize this, that how it translates into a career. I never really connected the dots, at least in school.
But as it is, hota bhi nahi hai. You cannot even really connect. You are still figuring out your academics.
Correct.
Studying to probably get the best marks, go into good college, get a degree, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So even I was someone in school days, college days, someone who was more intrigued with logic.
Yeah.
So I was very good at maths, accounts, so on. And with other subjects, I was like a rattu guy. So I used to just rattofy it without something, samjha to samjha, nahi samjha to I know, I will go, I will give my paper. It will be there in my memory for that day.
Yeah, and then next day you don't remember anything.
Next day forgot what is the logic, don't know anything. Yeah. So I was a very average student back then. So that's why even for CA, it was thoda, I cleared in my third attempt, the final chartered accountancy. So it was always about, you in that you have to still try to understand.
Correct.
But some subjects were such where you can just memorize and throw it out in the paper. So it was a little bit more, simpler. That I didn't have to really understand, but just go out there. Some things I really liked, like SFM. It was about valuation, stocks, multiple stuff like that. But other papers, I tried to just memorize it, ratify it, and put it out.
Interestingly, in school, I was a science student through and through.
Okay.
The idea of doing anything in business, because I mean, the subjects were accounts and economics or whatever. Economics I had nothing against, but accounts and business studies, that sounded so boring to me. And I was like, this is one of the most boring. So my priority was science first, right? And then humanities and then business.
So did you take up science then later on as a career?
11th, 12th, I took science, and in graduation, I took biochem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like...
PCMB, I was PCMB, and then I translated that to biochem. I was very clear I won't be sitting for any medical or engineering exams, so I spent zero money. Like my parents didn't send me, I didn't do any tuitions, I didn't do any coaching centers, I didn't give any exams, which actually worried my parents because the entire world was like, like preparing for exams. And my parents were like, what will she do? She doesn't want to be a doctor, she doesn't want to be a lawyer, she doesn't want to be an engineer.
I want to be a VC.
No, I remember my dad once, he's very concerned, and he was like, what do you want to do in your life? And I used to be into reading newspapers. So in my house, it was like my dad used to read newspaper. Then it used to go to my grandfather. He would read the newspaper. Then it would come to me. Right? So that was, we were the readers of the family. So I was reading my newspaper very nicely, just catching up on what is happening in the world. And my dad is like, this is 11th. My dad is like, are you filling any competitive exams? Are you doing anything? I was like, no. He's like, what will you do? I was like, I'm looking at the newspaper. I'm like, see the newspaper. People are doing so many things. I'll figure out what I want to do. Besides these other 3 things that you're mentioning, I'll figure out, what, as the world is so big, how can you restrict it to 3 professions? I don't understand. I didn't get it. So I was like, I'll figure it out. I don't know now.
And back then, though, there was no startups, there was nothing, right?
No,
it was like nothing was there. It was very mainstream professions that were there.
Correct. Yeah. I had no idea startup kya hai. And also because I come from a service class family, so there was no exposure to business at all. So that was never.
But were you all did your parents literally force you into studying or something, or they were friendly and cool enough that okay, even if you're not?
No, I was studious.
They had that faith that you would figure out something on your own. Somewhere back in their head
yeah. Okay. So I mean they would, so also good thing was that they would not show their nervousness, how parents get super micromanaging,
and back then that could have been the case if most 90% parents would really micromanage and tell कि भाई यही पढ़ना है, यही degree लाना है, and that's how you get a job and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But that was not the case with you. It was more cool.
It was cooler in a way that, it would not create some sort of a pressure on me. Because I think one thing that my father was also clear about was, and also my mother, I would say for her as well, that if you put too much pressure on the kid, it's never good. So the way they would communicate the expectations was ki, okay, just, make sure that you're independent, you're able to get a job. And I mean, itna to they've seen me grow up ki they know ki she's a good child. As in, she's not someone
she's a balanced child.
She's a balanced child and she'll figure it out. And she's smart enough, intelligent, 2 number aate hain, teachers say good things. So aisa nahi hai ki, we don't know something about, there's a hidden side of her that we don't know about. So they would communicate it as such. Ki, okay, just keep this in mind, but also not putting pressure. So yeah, and in such cases, actually now I realize it's sometimes scary when the child is sort of responsible, in some way when, imagine your parents are telling you, acha, you do it and, aapke upar hai. Then you sometimes feel more pressure, ki acha, mujhe koi, I don't know, no one is telling me ki kya karna hai. Now I need to figure it out on my own. So I think those things were also there in my mind, but I was still lucky ki I was in a safe environment.
Yeah, it is a safe, that matters a lot. That was something with me also when I was in a joint family, born and brought up in a joint family. So we had 2 chachas, cousins, granddad, grandmother. So similarly, but my parents never put pressure. It was very cool. The mutual understanding was there because when I was sincere, naughty, sincere, complaints aati thi, but studies mein I used to manage, get average marks and stuff like that. But they knew back of the head he's not going to do something ulta seedha.
Correct.
Okay, that will really take him down the drain altogether. So that level of faith was there, that understanding was there. And I was like also, theek hai, they are not forcing me. So I was also understanding where I have to go, what I need to do. And I was, being a Gujarati, commerce is the only thing that I can understand. Numbers and money is the only thing.
Right.
But my family is not from a business background. So I'm the first person who's doing a business right now in my family. So CA was the only option back then. And that's what then took me to CA. Ki bhai, aur to kuch hai nahi. So then I started.
So business करना है,
business भी करना है, ऐसा there was no thought. It was a job वाला thing only कि CA करना है फिर job करेंगे वैसा type. And business just happened.
Why not science?
समझता ही नहीं है. But from school only nothing you could understand. So biology was the only thing which could interest that in 9-10 standard as a teenage boy. But that was it. So other than that there was no, so that is little dirty, but other than that no. science, art, dur se no rishta. So numbers was the only thing which was, making
Correct.
sense. And I was good in maths because my dad, my granddad's genes, I was very good in maths and numbers. So that always happened, and CA, and it was always in finance.
Okay, got it.
So that was the thing. Okay, so coming to your professional journey, right? So then, how did you figure out while reading newspapers? You figured out you started at India Today, I believe, and then you are now in startup ecosystem. You are a VC. So how did this thing happen? How did you get the India Today job? Was it through these newspapers or something? What did
No.
kaisa kya
So
hua?
I think my graduation was biochem, and I think after the first year, I realized I won't be able to continue this. But I had taken this 3-year honors course, so I had to finish it. But I was aware after the first year that I need to figure something out, because usually the trajectory when you do a BSc is to do an MSc. That is, MSc karo, PhD karo. That is the normal trajectory in any science course.
Okay.
I was like, I don't think I can commit to an MSc and then a PhD in this. Because while the subjects were very interesting, I liked a couple of things that I was learning, like immunology, and like, for example, today I know a lot about health and how a lot of health tech startups, how they work, or supplements, or there's some D2C stuff, how it works, is because I have background in biochem. I can read what body mechanisms, how they work, how does the body react, and all of that.
Nice.
So I liked studying all of that, but my problem was that applying it means spending a lot of time in a lab, and that's like a closed environment like this, that you're always inside, you're always taking readings, and you have to be there. And doing those things is great, but doing it as a career long term was something that I thought it's not me, because I'm a social person. I like talking to people, I like doing new things, and that personality that I thought I have is very different from the subject that I've taken. So I realized it very early on, and I started figuring out, okay, what could be the next step for me. It wasn't an easy transition, because not many BSc people, take a break. So I took a break after BSc, and I started giving a lot of...
This was in which year, by the way?
This was 2009-10.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, let me just figure out what I want to do. I took director filmmaking exams. I took CAT. Let's say CAT, I took Byju's classes, like crash course of Byju's and all of that. And Byju used to teach back then. Yeah.
Acha, the owner, right?
Yeah. Byju used to teach.
Brand or a company?
No. Byju used to come and teach in like these big halls and all. He would rent out and he would...
Got it.
So I saw it in newspaper that Baiju Ravindran, like this serial cat topper, comes and he teaches students, and it's a crash course, because I didn't want to pay for a coaching class and all of that. I was very clear. So I did a couple of exams, and journalism is the one that I cracked, like in one go. And I think that was again because I knew so much already. I used to read magazines, newspapers. If there was a topic which was given, like women reservation bill or any, on Naxalite movement or something, I could write about it. And of course I practiced. ऐसा नहीं है, मतलब I practiced, I prepared my answers and essays on different topics, and I was fairly confident that it's not something that I'm preparing to be a journalist. I already have it in me. Like, I'm already reading, I'm already, aware. So I cracked the IIMC Delhi written exam. Then there was an interview, and I got, that's in the JNU campus. So again, it was good experience to be on the campus of JNU, and I was staying in a hostel there. So that was a great time for me. It was great to be in a place where people are sort of learning about new things.
Just before you proceed ahead, want to understand this one thing. You kept mentioning in this conversation that you never wanted to spend money, or you were very choosy while selecting where to invest or where to put money. So what is, you come from a middle class background. How, like, what is your thought process about money? Like,
so I do come from middle class background, and I think
because
it's
why
not...
I'm asking is because even I have that. I used to have, right now also it's there, but thoda और ज़्यादा develop हो रहा है. But even I had that same mindset.
No, my thing used to be very different. I was very aware when I'm confident about something, when I'm not confident about something. If I'm confident that let's say, I'll be a very good doctor. So yes, I want my parents to invest in me and push me in that direction. But in those years, I was not very confident. I was very clear and I told this to my parents that I don't know, I'm figuring it out. So I don't want to just keep taking their money and spend it anywhere. That was a personal thing that I had developed on my own, that responsibility. That responsibility that I shouldn't be, just wasting away things, to try anything. So that is probably the middle class upbringing, I guess, that. And it's not like my parents would say no. That was another thing. I knew that they would say yes. So they will spend all the money that they have if I tell them, okay, this is what I want to do. So that made me even more conscious of the fact that, I don't want to put up.
It very carefully.
Yeah. So that was very, very ingrained in me. So even when I had to decide what coaching class to take or which exam to give, I was aware of the economics part of it also.
Nice.
And how to put it across to my parents. So that way, I think that is the context there. So yeah, IMC I was able to do. And so placements happen there as well, and different news wires come there, like a PTI, etc. would come, newspapers would come, magazines would come. So PTI was it's a national wire, right? So a lot of people sit for it. So they selected 6 or probably 9 students from the campus, like the entire campus, and I was one of them. So I got placed pretty early. Right, and what is the key skill that is needed to be a journalist at a wire like a PTI is that you're able to read a lot of information and summarize it. Because if there's any news by PTI, it's very concise, right? They don't write opinions as such; they write the news as it is. So I was good at that, summarizing that entire, like a lot of information into a very concise, structured news piece. That was my skill. So that got me placed in PTI. And it was great because it runs in a 6-hour shift, right?
Okay.
And it was at Parliament Street. So I was like, just in central Delhi, going, and you're invited everywhere. Like PTI is like, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, yeah. True.
So we were invited everywhere. I would go to like a Naka rally also. I would go to a food tasting also. I would go to Kejriwal ka other things also. I would koi bhi random.
How was that experience?
It was good. it was interesting. I think again, going and meeting people on the ground. It's always eye-opening that you see something in front of the screen. But then when you're actually there, that's a different world altogether. Because the news that comes to you is a very filtered format, which is decided by someone how to show it to you. But when you're there on the ground, you see everything.
Now you can put your opinion on that news also.
Yeah.
And your perspective.
So that I loved. I loved the idea that, you're there on the ground. Like you are the one responsible for sharing this to the world, right?
So you have to be very responsible while writing or something.
Yeah. A good thing was, in a wire, you have to sort of devoid everything. Like you have to remove opinions completely. You have to just put the facts, know. So like that. But yeah, of course, from there I moved to television, which was completely different because it was all TRP game, crazy newsroom. And newsroom is one of the most, I don't know if people will like it, but people who are in newsrooms are super toxic and super, like it's like a pressure cooker. Because you are in front of like 50 screens and you're always seeing what breaking news everyone is doing. And then if you had that news before or not, and if you had it before, why didn't you break it? What was the problem? So it's all to do with TRP, break.
Web series and movies and all that right now.
It's exactly like that. And one thing goes wrong, you are yelled at in front of everyone. Yeah, you're screwed. So that happens. So you have to really learn to take a lot of pressure. You need to learn how to...
It's complete abusive and everything.
Yeah. There's no filter. Everyone will yell at you. They'll call you whatever the fuck. they'll literally yell at you if anything goes wrong. Right? Doesn't matter you're a junior guy or you're a senior guy. I've seen my editors being yelled at. I was also yelled at. Because you have to package news and there can't be any spelling mistake. There can't be any quote going wrong. So it's not just about. So I was a producer. Output producers, the work is to make sure that all the inputs that come, let's say it's coming from the ground, it's coming from the team that writes the news, you have to bring it all together and put it on air.
Okay.
So if anything goes wrong...
Who speaks on air then?
No, I mean, sometimes the reporter who's reporting from the ground has given a bite, right? So that cuts, put a cut on that, put a spin on it, okay, what are we trying to say here about this story? And sometimes we give the script, so they'll read out of a script, right? Like a lot of those things happen. So package the news and, put it on air and then, look at the world reacting to it. If it's a hit or not, the TRP numbers come every week, so we know, what is happening. But again, with the newsroom also, it was exciting to be part of it. And but you have to also deal with the unusual hours. Like we used to have early morning shifts that start from 4 a.m. So I have to get up at 2 a.m. I have to, get ready and, the office cab would come and 4 a.m. your shift begins and 10 or whatever 12 you go back home and then that cycle. But then sometimes there are the night shifts are there, which means that you come to the office by 10 and then you go by 8 in the morning, so you're not sleeping, and then so a lot of those things happen. But it's a good experience. Again, like I said, working in a national, channel.
This was India Today.
This was Headlines Today, and Headlines Today was connected with Aaj Tak at that point of time because Aaj Tak was the main channel. So we used to share all our resources with them. This was back in the day, Videocon Tars. This was before the new Noida office had been built.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a great experience again, to be a full mainstream journalist or in a national channel doing national politics and international bulletins I used to do. That was at least about my reporting stuff, but I got disillusioned after a while because I was like, this can't be my life, being yelled at in the news. I think there is something missing.
I need to yell at someone.
No, not that I need to yell at someone, but I used to feel like, because I had just done only bachelor's and that too in science. And then I had 1 degree in journalism. I used to feel like I need to know more. Like I need to somehow be more educated, in order to have more nuance or build some sort of an intellect. I always used to feel like I'm not there yet in terms of my education to be better than, others. And that used to bother me a little bit. So I thought that, maybe let's think about this. And one of my friends was doing East Asia in Delhi University. It was a very well-funded department. I randomly visited her one day and I liked her teachers who were all Ivy League educated professors. I thought this is good, and they had great scholarships. So I one day took a leave and I sat for the entrance and I cleared it. I got through the interview round as well, and I decided to leave my job at India Today. My boss didn't accept the resignation. He gave me a whole lecture on, you're doing journalistic suicide, what are you doing, and, how many people want to be in your position in a newsroom like this and all of that. What good lecture. It's you're just starting, what are you doing? It's if you have to go and study, at least go outside, at least go to London, at least go to US. You're going to Delhi University, who does that? Leaving this job and you're going to Delhi University. Supportive at that point of time, but I was I feel like I need to do this, and I left. And I started off my journey as an academic person where I'm trying to learn international relations. I started learning Chinese, and I did very well. Language was my strong suit, so I did very well in Chinese. In my first semester, I got a scholarship to go to China and US.
Yeah.
And that was again great exposure for me because I met so many diplomats. In fact, one of the diplomats I met was Jay Shankar, who was a new ambassador to China at that point of time. I met the US ambassador to China. I met so many, I went to a lot of Chinese ministries. I interviewed so many diplomats. So that was an exposure to another level where I thought, what is happening with my life? This is very interesting. I never planned this. Where did I start? Where did I land? It was great experience. Then I presented my report in Washington, D.C., where, Johns Hopkins School of International Studies was there. I came back and I was like, for a week, I was like, what happened with me just now, this is...
This was for how many months or years you were there?
No, this was like a research trip for which they paid everything. And they took us around to all the places where stakeholders were in
For
US and
months?
in China. This was maximum a month. So, and preparing the report and going and presenting. But it was a full action-packed, a month where continuous meetings are happening. You're getting exposure to a lot of things. So I came back and I decided I'll finish my university here in Delhi and then apply again for a scholarship. And that's what I did. Finished my master's, applied for a UN scholarship, UNESCO fellowship, which I got. And I went to China to study advanced Chinese. And after that, I ended up staying there. While I was there, I got hired by Cheetah Mobile, Bytedance as an early first employee in those companies because they were very keen on investing in India. So they wanted to build something for India. And I was from media background. I knew Chinese. I sort perfect candidate. I like all the checklists that they had. I filled like all of those. And it was again great experience, and during that time I used to host a lot of events for entrepreneurs in Beijing. So Startup Grinds Beijing chapter I ran for almost 2.5 years. And again, we were the most active chapter globally. So we were given an award also for doing an event every week. And during that time, I met a lot of Indian entrepreneurs who would come to Beijing to learn about Chinese ecosystem, to meet Chinese investors, to learn about Bytedance because I was working in Bytedance. In fact, one of my partners today, Neeraj, had sent me a cold LinkedIn message that, I'm coming to China with my startups, please, meet me. And several attempts later, I met him because I used to be like into multiple things. So I could never find time for everything.
So Bytedance is the TikTok parent.
Is the TikTok parent company, correct. So I had joined it before TikTok was an international thing. It was like, there was just Douyin in China. So 2017, I had joined. And at that point of time, they didn't have a big India team, and they didn't have an India team. So yeah, we were actually working on multiple products to be launched in India, TikTok being one of them, right? So I think all of these experiences were so different from each other, but I think that's why I got a lot of experience of working in different areas and meeting so many different people. And that today helps me being an investor because I know that kind of exposure people don't have, that understanding, those nuances of business. It's one thing to read numbers in a business, but it's another thing to know the people behind it and the work that goes behind it. Number tum kuch bhi dikha sakte ho. I used to see this in China also when startups used to come to me. There also I used to mentor a lot. But people would come and quote any number, like we will do this and we'll do that. But I was always interested because I was on execution side, on operation side. So I used to be like, how will you do this? So explain me that part. So till today, I'm very interested in when people tell me that they will do something or they quote numbers, I want to go a little deeper as to, okay, how? Right? So I think that journey led me to being an investor. Ultimately when I transitioned from China and I had a good network in India and I got locked in India, like I had come to visit, lockdown happened, I couldn't go back. So I was like, okay, now I need to figure something out for myself because 1-2 months I didn't do anything because I was just waiting that, maybe things will get better. Maybe I will get to have a flight.
Was the reason or the cusp at the...
That was there, and I thought I was in between like China and US at that point of time that I was like I could go to US also, I could go to China also. I was still sort of not completely decided, but I thought that if things do get better, I was sure that maybe my experience would be more relevant outside of India. That was my thinking at that point of time. But yeah, when I realized it's not getting better, I reached out to my network. I got multiple job opportunities. I got multiple opportunities to partner up and be a founder with someone. So I think this idea of starting an investors network, because I had done networks before, I had done communities before. I thought this is something, it's right down my alley. Maybe I don't know investing that well, but I can learn it.
Learn that on the job.
You know, on the job. So I think that's how this journey sort of began.
So We Found a Circle was founded at that point in time?
Yes.
Or it was already there?
No, it was this. I was working on it since July 2020. We incorporated in October 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So you mentioned about China, right? Like, how is China? Like, how are the people out there? How is the work culture out there? You said you learned about networking. You learned about creating communities. How is the entire thing? Because we've of course, even when I used to work in stock markets and research on companies, etc. Because of Chinese markets, because of China's stock markets, a lot used to get impacted in Indian stock markets, right? हमेशा सुबह उठ के we used to see the Asian markets. Asian में what is China doing? What are the numbers coming out there? What is the inflation there, etc. So it always used to impact somewhere in the Indian stock market at least. In your ecosystem when you were meeting entrepreneurs there, etc. How are they different from Indian entrepreneurs? What did you learn from them out there?
So, my introduction.
And as a country, how it is China?
Yeah, so my introduction to China was not again from the finance point of view. It was more from a cultural, diplomatic, geopolitics point of view, that it's our biggest neighbor, but we don't know much about it. Not many Indian scholars on China they can't speak Chinese. They've not lived in China enough. So that's why our scholarship also is good, but it's very theoretical. It's still not great when it comes to learning about a big neighbor, an old country, an old civilization. So that was the fascinating part for me. That, there still needs to be done a lot with these people, right? And it was fascinating to me. I mean, I think I remember a lot of people asking me, why are you going to China? What will you do there? What is the point? And I used to be like, how can you say that? Look at that country. It's a huge country. It's doing well.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever be the political system. I mean, but
the GDP is at least way higher than India's also.
It's doing well. Some things they're doing right, and I mean, taking away the judgment from all the arguments around, what is right and what is wrong. I mean, we should know about our neighbor, right? We need to know more. Just doing one reporting on the transgressions, the border issues were happening and all of that, that's not good enough. We need to know more. So that was my motivation. So spending time there, it was great to make Chinese friends. To understand a little bit better about them also. And of course, when you make friends, and I was in a university, which is language university, where everyone comes across China and across the world to learn Chinese.
Yeah.
So I was with people who were from 170 countries, including North Korea, including, Pakistan, including, those small islands you've never heard of, like Djibouti, between South American countries, Iceland, Greenland, Egypt, everything. You are among people who are coming from different walks of life. So for me, it was not just then about China. I was also interested in knowing, why is the world coming here? What is China doing?
What is so special in China?
What is so special?
People are coming to learn Chinese. That means they want to do some trade, some business, something they want to do in China.
There is importance of learning Chinese first. And again, something that I really valued from being there was that they are very adamant about doing everything in Chinese, right? So world has to learn Chinese.
If they want to do something.
Chinese will not, they will learn English, but that language will not go irrelevant. It's not going to lose any kind of relevance.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting to me.
Given that importance to their own
They've given importance to their own language. They've made it a point to standardize the language. The Putonghua that we learn is the official Chinese. That's the standardized Chinese that the government makes sure that everyone.
Mandarin is
Yeah, but Mandarin has multiple forms, right? Like it's multiple dialects, etc. So they've made an official sort of a language, Putonghua, that has to be learnt by everyone. So people, for example, let's say Hindi. Multiple people speak Hindi and they speak it in different formats. But what Chinese are trying to do is that have a standard format of Chinese that every Chinese should learn.
Oh, okay.
So there is no difference between that Hindi and like different Hindis or different Chinese. Right? I mean, there are criticisms of that also, right? That you're trying to get rid of our dialects, stuff like this. But then their thing is that, everyone needs to know one standard Chinese, and whoever, like any foreigner that comes to China has to learn that Chinese, right? And which is Mandarin, but that official language, So, yeah, I mean, very clear about the national pride that they have, especially with the language. That was great, and I was like, India should also do something like that. That you need to have
for Hindi or for
not just for Hindi. I think regional languages, right? I mean, India, there's no one national language, there are multiple national languages. So I think emphasis on regional language, local dialects should be there, right? Like, I mean, in Tamil Nadu, people should know Tamil. I mean, in Karnataka, Kannada.
Know.
Yeah, but it should be
one
taught.
Language which for the world.
That I don't think I'm in a place to say that
But
Hindi.
What would be your opinion?
It should be. I think it's such a controversial and sensitive topic. I believe that local languages. I would say that anything that is tied to the history of that region, people should know. Whether there should be one or two languages that everyone should know.
That is totally from a world perspective. If
Yeah.
there is someone coming from outside, how the Chinese have made, like they've created a university for language.
Yeah.
So probably
It's a huge university,
global
yeah.
national university that they've created. So there is nothing like that in India.
Yeah.
Probably, if I'm not wrong.
And actually that university was created so that they could train Chinese to teach Chinese outside of China. So a lot of Chinese teachers, most of them get trained there.
And then they go outside also.
Yes.
But people are coming from outside to learn Chinese.
Correct.
So that they can do some business, some trade,
Yeah.
something in China.
Anything, like they could be business people, they could be diplomats, they could be students like me,
Yeah, it
anyone.
could be anything. So there should be something like that in India too. It
Definitely.
should be just one language, because then there you can, of course, you can teach multiple languages. in
And
that
the
way
only
also.
thing is that in India, because everyone knows English, because of that, I think
But
a lot of
rural
people.
still does not know.
Rural, but
The
then
majority of India is still not
correct.
well versed with English. Yeah.
But then
It's
how
getting
many
better.
people are coming to work in rural India also, na? I think that's one thing. So I mean, again, we can always like
But if someone wants
compare.
to do business in India, someone wants
Yeah.
to come to study in India,
Yeah.
then they should be knowing one language, which at least I believe could be Hindi. Not should be, but could be Hindi, because it's a very common language now. Even if you go to Bangalore, you go to Hyderabad, you go to Chennai, also I had visited recently. So my clients out there, tuta futa Hindi, they could speak, or they could at least understand what I am conversing. So somewhere Hindi has gained that prominence. Of course, northwest India, it is there. South, mein also Bangalore, Hyderabad, people to speak properly, like fluent, and dialect is little. It's going to be different, but they know Hindi and they understand. Only Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and probably Kerala, that side, little more lower down the south.
Right.
I think there it is still gaining that momentum. But I feel, I think that one kind of this university should be, which is a global.
I agree that sorry, that people who come to India should know Indian languages. I think more importantly, Indians should also speak in their language.
Of course.
I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't want to learn Indian languages is because Indians also are not like talking in those
I think
languages.
that's where I think our Prime Minister also, Narendra Modi, he speaks even if he's anywhere.
Yeah.
They speak in Hindi. There is a translator who will translate in that region.
Yeah.
Though he knows English, he knows very well. But that's
Right.
the way he's promoting.
I think we definitely need to take more pride in our history and our
that is
languages for sure. You know, and I mean, government may or may not do something about it, but I think as Indians, we definitely need to do that. While learning English is great, yes, everyone should. It's a great advantage actually. But I think, yes, that doesn't mean that you don't, learn your languages. That's one thing. That was something that stood out for me in China. After that, I think it was the population. Like it was the most populated country at that point of time. Now it's India. A lot of population, but it's a vast country. It's a huge country. So even with, let's say in Beijing, there were 20 million people. There are still empty spaces. Like that city is huge. It's like NCR, Delhi NCR, like huge city that is expanded like across.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting. The infrastructure blew my mind. I was like, my God, the roads are amazing.
And they build it so quick.
And they build it so quickly.
To build one
like
road or something.
the train stations are like our airports. You know, I mean, that huge, that the infra is new. That of course makes a big difference because the infrastructure is new. The quality is amazing. So these foreigners who are in China, right? I mean, there's a reason why they stay there for life. Some of them have been staying there for 20 years, 30 years. They can make China their home despite all the other issues. Reason being that the quality of living for them in certain quarters is better than their own countries. It's a fact. I think it's something that people don't speak about much. But go to Shanghai, go to Beijing, or go to cities just outside of Beijing. The roads are much better than our cities, you know. So infrastructure, you have to give it to them. They've developed really well. Because one reason...
And they've done it very quickly.
And they've done it very quickly. Over 30 years, they've done it. Right? So I think, again...
Both of those factors.
Like not debating too much on the political, scenario. The execution, right? Like just the execution of work, you have to give credit where credit is due. They've done a good job there. Another thing that stood out to me was, are people aware? A normal person, a middle class person, normal person is aware that China is a superpower. They're aware, right? They take a lot of pride in it. They're aware that the country is a consequential country. They know that the country is a superpower, right? They know that the country is not to be messed with. That is also very interesting. That was something I was very curious to know. Right, because I used to sit with a lot of my Chinese friends and I used to help them out with their English also. I used to correct their essays also that they used to submit in other universities, and sometimes they had to write about China, sometimes they had to write about other cultural aspects of being a Chinese, and the way they write, it shows a lot of like pride in who they are, defending also sometimes their regime, defending their economic policies, as opposed to what they think the West thinks. Because the censorship in media, sometimes there is, what they know is slightly different from what we know. But
it happens, I think, even same, I think, for India, Pakistan. In Pakistan, the media, it would be more pro about them. Here, we would be hearing stories about anti-Pakistan or complete negative.
But on ground, it's very different.
It could be something different altogether.
People are usually warm from any nationality that I've met. But it's interesting to know their point of views, right? And I think that is interesting from, let's say, being in an international studies space, right? Where you have to put your diplomatic foot forward all the time, like you're always like,
Are you still having friends from that university? Do you talk to them often or something? I often do, and I'm connected to, I've spent 6 years in that country, so there's always like good connection, and also the not just Chinese, also global citizens, like people from across the world who work there. So I'm in touch with them, and because of that I do have friends in I think at least 100 countries, I think, like just calling, I can find like someone in my connect via who I knew or I had met, and I can always ask them for help. So that was something that a couple of things I mentioned that I think really stood out for me in China. That I think people don't realize when they're just hearing anything about it from them. I think for China and Pakistan, as an Indian, it's always it's always a negative
More
bias
negative than
because of the media and stuff like that. But that's okay. That's another topic altogether. Tell me, like, this is something I'm very much curious about, right? Because I think you've worked at USA also, in USA also,
briefly.
in China
Yes.
also, and now you're in India working, right? What's the difference between these three countries in their work culture and their personal, like a personal life and a professional life culture? So culturally, what's the difference between all these three? Like any one point, if you could just streamline it, if you have to pinpoint.
Okay, so in China, for example, I used to get 5 holidays per year.
500?
Just 5 holidays per
Five
year.
holidays, okay.
Per year. So the number of holidays that you get from the company are very less.
Okay.
Reason being that the national holidays, when they give like 2 major national holidays, are 1 week holidays, right?
Okay.
So the company will give you less holidays, but overall you will have like good time for yourself. Then in India,
Saturday is off out there or what?
no. So the work culture is very
Workaholic.
very workaholic. So it's called 996. I think popularly, if you've read on Chinese work culture, it's called 996.
What do you mean by
So that means you're working 9 to 9, 6 days a week. And sometimes mine was longer than 9 to 9 because I was also doing events. So
late nights?
yeah, so I would go from my office to my events and then, just to sleep at home. And I would again start the same cycle. So mine was like a little bit more than 996. In US, there is a slight again, they do give major holidays, like they're very like sacrosanct about Thanksgiving and about Christmas and year-end holidays and all of that. So I would say there is some sense of work-life balance, some sense, right? But I don't think it's true across, because sometimes when you're on Wall Street or you're sometimes in very high-level jobs or high-pressure jobs, you can't always take those holidays. But yeah, in US also there's a concept of work-life balance, that you need to spend time with family, etc. I think the benefits are better in US. In China, it's okay. I was under Chinese law, so I mean Chinese labor laws, so they're decent. I would say not that bad. In India, I see that people work a lot, but they're not compensated for it. At least in China, I was compensated for my overtime. In US also, there's that professionalism exists. That someone is working for you, if someone is giving their time or extra time, then we need to compensate. In India, I don't see that. In India, everyone wants to take your time and your work for free. That respect for professionalism is not there, right? I think the growth aspect from a professional's point of view also gets messed up because of that, because your manager is not talking to you about your growth. They're
work on you.
Yes, they're only focused on what they can extract from you, what they can give you is not spoken about. I realized it like when I started working in India, and even when I had worked in media. But media I consider is like a very unorganized industry, like that. But in corporates in India also, that conversation about what we can do for you is not a common conversation. In China, in US, they had it like front, right, center. Like, okay, so now that you're going to this other phase, like you're going to be a manager, what do you want to do? Like, what is your big goal? I had those conversations with my Chinese managers also, and with my American colleagues also. Right? So, for example, when I used to work in US, people would have the commercials set day one. That, okay, you're going to be giving us time. So this is the paperwork for this. This is what it would be like. These are the terms. In India, never. Like, in India, they're like, first you work for us. Then we will see if your work is worth something, and we will be the judge. And are you capable enough to judge? God knows. So that attitude.
There is no judge to judge your capability that you can judge.
Yeah. So that I saw in India, a lot of people think they know a lot more than they do. They think highly of themselves. sometimes I feel, but actually they're not that good, and also that whole professional setting wherein, you pay people what they deserve, you are actually investing in them to grow them, that I've not seen.
I also feel that Indians, we do have little bit of trust issue when we are putting our work or we are giving our work to someone, and that is also one of the reasons that comes into the picture. It might not come out as a very explicit reason, but probably subconsciously, as a hiring person, as a company, as an
That's an interesting perspective. I want to know from you.
So
More.
I think that when you're trying to give your work to someone, allocate, because it's going off your chest, right? Then you're hiring someone new, probably a junior, a fresher, maybe some years of experience, etc. You don't trust that person immediately. The way trust issue is always there. I think from my point of view in Indians, where we would not immediately tell that okay, this guy will do it. He will manage it. She will manage it. Even if I'm not there, she'll look after this particular task. वो day one से नहीं आता. When in US, I feel that these guys are so professional also, and so I'm not getting that word, but they're so well crafted in their own things, and they have belief in their own self also, and they would put faith in that person whom they are hiring. That I think you will be able to do it, and that's why everything is clear, crisp and clear in paper. These are our terms. If we feel you can do it, so there is no hide and seek. There is no that okay, we'll give you 3 months. You see, if we like you, then only we'll give you so much and so on. So I think somewhere that subconsciously that trust issue happens.
I think I agree with you, and I think the reason for that is a little bit to do with just the professional work culture, professionalism
work culture
that exists. But that why it exists is also. So in countries like US, for example, you are awarded if you do good work, right? Like there's a clear upward mobility. Your efforts are rewarded. Yeah, mostly generic. I mean, I'm saying a general thing.
Yeah.
In India, that's not necessary. I mean, your good work may or may not be rewarded.
India, where politics also happens in companies. I don't know if that happens in US. I'm not too sure.
I'm sure it happens. Politics happens everywhere. But you understand that whole idea of capitalism, like America mein, the whole concept capitalist, like pure capitalist, where you are rewarded for innovation, you are rewarded for being better than others. So there is a clear outcome that if you prove yourself to be better, there are multiple opportunities around you. In India, that's not necessary because there is a lot of relationship based work culture. Where you need not be the best, you need not.
But if you have good rapport with your manager,
yeah, you'll manage. So you doing something better than others is not necessarily rewarded. I think all of that plays a role in what we're discussing. That trust factor also. That just if you're saying ki, I'm getting someone new, but I don't trust them. But you'll trust if it's your network ka person or if someone is coming to you as a reference.
So this is something which Mukesh Ambani had said, on this point only, that in India, if you are to build a business, in India the business gets built on relationships, not on pen and paper. If not on a contract, not on a legal contract, not on an MOU. It builds on word of mouth or your relationship. Today, if I give you my word, tomorrow, let's say if you are my client, you need this by today, and I tell you yes, I will give it to you by today evening. By hook or by crook, I will give it to you by today evening. And if I keep that word, for most of your life, you will continue to do business with me, right? Because zaban ka pakka hai. In US, it's not like that. वहाँ पे the relationship or the your commitment or your dialogue. That comes later. First, it's pen and paper. So I think what you said is right. In India, relationship and what you speak, what you commit, and then you deliver, then you are the go-to person for that, for your vendor or for your client.
So there's a lot of history to this, no? There's an Asian way of working. What you're quoting from Mr. Ambani's thing is true for Asia,
Yeah.
not just for India. It's true for China
for
also.
China.
It's China
Okay.
also. It's true for Korea also. It's true for Japan also. It's true for other Asian economies as well. And that has to a lot to do with the culture and the history of that region. And of course, now that we have a lot of MNCs here, a lot of American companies entering here, the work culture is different. Some people who want to work in American companies or in that culture will go there. They'll never work for any Indian company because it doesn't match. Like their personal ethics don't match.
Yeah.
Right, that is the case. And in
And it's
US,
changing also. I think there are.
it's changing also in many ways. And in US, of course, there's a certain way that country has become powerful, right? Like people have come from outside, they've found space for themselves, opportunity for themselves. They have been rewarded for that.
Yeah.
So that's how the culture has sort of progressed and gotten established. So I think all of that historical perspective plays a lot of role in such situations. So yeah, I mean briefly on work culture, what I think is different,
In personal life, anything?
Personal life as in?
Difference between these three countries and your personal life?
So I think this is a very generic thing. Honestly, I think in India people love celebrating these, festivals, small moments, those attention to family, on certain days. In China, it's not too much. Like so, there's Chinese New Year. For which you give your entire time. That 1 week goes to the family, but otherwise not so much. In US again, it's mostly Thanksgiving, Christmas, but a very individualistic society otherwise, right? One thing that I really found nice about working in China was that way it was very similar, like that whole Asian thing where you have to give time to your family. It's easier to bond with people. थोड़ा सा similarity है cultures में उस तरीके से, how weddings are big. These things with let's say there's a festival there where they honor their ancestors. It's big. So those things where you give
That value system towards family is
family
very much
and
similar to
ancestors is there.
ancestors, yeah.
So
वो
that
US
way,
में that is
that is
more
not
individualistic
there.
and-
Yeah.
Got it. But tell me one thing. So now there are many people that we are hearing and we're seeing coming and having there is this new concept of reverse migration that is happening. Right? People are coming who have gone abroad for work, probably even settled there, have families there, etc. They are planning or they have started coming back to India.
Yeah.
So, what according to you is changing that these guys who have, worked there, have started coming here? Your case was a little different because you got stuck for COVID and then you had no option.
True.
And you found a good match here, which blended with your skill sets and your experience.
Correct.
And you got to do now what you're doing, and your personality of socializing and stuff got blended very well.
Yeah.
Now people are really coming back to start their own startup, to give back to Indian community. I've read where entrepreneurs from farmer background, from their families being farmers, they went abroad, studied, worked, had good jobs, etc. They are leaving that job, coming back to India to start something in agri, to give back to their farmer community, something on those fronts. So what is the reason that?
So I'll give you another example to explain this point. Something similar was happening in China 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
I would say in the last 10 years, what has happened is that a lot of rich Chinese who would leave China to study in Singapore or US have come back.
Okay.
Right, to work in Chinese companies as opposed to them.
This is 6 years back you were talking. That
6,
they were
7,
coming
8,
back
10
when you were
years.
there.
Yeah. So a lot of it's the same phenomena was happening there, where people are like those turtles are coming back, and they left for that shore and they've
and now they
now they've come back. So multiple reasons were there. Success of startups in China, they were becoming global success stories, right? Like Alibaba, Baidu, Bytedance, all of them. Challenging the US perspective or the Western perspective that innovation only happens there. Right? Challenging that perspective that, the best companies are only there. So because of that, a lot of people, and not just Chinese, a lot of foreigners also. I used to get calls from people from Harvard and all that they're like, we're considering to move to Beijing and work in ByteDance. tell us how it is, what do we need to prepare for. They were curious to know what is happening in the country.
Wow.
Right? The growth story, the technological advancement, and this is despite again everything to do with the politics and geopolitics and the other stuff that happens in the region. People were like, there are opportunities there, they're getting paid well. I mean, anyone who's earning X amount in Silicon Valley, that amount can be matched now in Beijing. So why should I not go back to my family or to the country? Infra is good. The pollution is also improved. There's no more like dusty cloud and all. It's clean and clear. Then why am I staying there? Why am I not closer to the family?
To my roots.
Yeah. And they can make the same money or more. So those things were bringing people back.
Okay.
Right? And something similar on those lines I can see now happening in India. The image that, India is a growing economy, India opportunities, the startup world is getting funding from everywhere, there is money to be made, right? Because that one of the key reasons why any person goes and settles abroad, the economic situation, any day, opportunities and the money that comes with those opportunities.
Standard of living, of money.
Everything, right? Even you could be making lesser money, but the respect that you get for the profession, that also, and also what you're able to afford. And when you say what you're able to afford, like a better road sometimes, a better health insurance, just something as small as that, right? So all of those things that people go for abroad, now they think something like that is possible in India. So they are just doing this calculation in their mind that if they come back and they're able to get a certain package, or if there is an opportunity to build something, and if they have good education, good exposure, so why not put it into application in India rather than in Silicon Valley?
Because all the facilities, all the infra, all the requirements that is there,
it's
now easy, the talent resources that's easily available in India now.
Yeah, I mean, it's comparative and it's something that people now think is feasible, which earlier they thought is going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
So because of that change, perceptions change in market, change in attitude of people towards entrepreneurs also, I feel. Like earlier entrepreneurship, and people would run away from a person who's starting a business. Right? Because they were like, they're going to take a lot of money, don't know if it's going to be successful or not, no one to take bet on you, it's a lonely journey. Today, it's not exactly like that. Like if you are coming from a certain type of background, good experience, you can actually get enough people to, put faith and put money in you and work with you. So I think that has changed, and that is what is giving more comfort to people to move back to India, to be with their families. And have a life here rather than in any other country.
I recently met a 55, 60-year-old guy, and he used to live in US with his wife. They moved back to India, and in US he was there for 35 years or something. He was in US only, and he used to work there in trading business. He used to take clothes, material and stuff like that. He used to import from India and sell it to retailers out there in USA. So that was his business. He grew up the ranks from a warehouse manager to logistics and so on and so forth. Then in the retail shop, and ultimately he could start his own business with a partner in US. He's doing very well. They decided to move back to India. They had some things out here to wrap up with their family regarding their financials and property related stuff and stuff. They came here, he saw the opportunity here, and he's now starting his own venture as a retail brand and opened his first shop in Pune.
Oh, nice.
Which is into teenage girls, women wear basically, girls wear, teenage 18 to 26, 20 year old girls wear, because that was his, so he took his expertise of there. He knows the material, he knows all those stuff, he knows vendors in India, he knows all those things. So now he just had to apply it and start.
Why not in India then?
Yeah, so he told me, we had met recently. He told me he got talent very nicely. He's hiring interns to do the digital marketing and stuff like that. So he's getting resources very well.
Right.
He got a proper good website developer. store designer, interior designer, everything he got. He's like, this was not there 20, 25 years, 30 years back.
Correct.
Which would make me sit here and probably not go to US and do some work here, do a job here. I went there, I got a good lifestyle, etc. But now I see that out here. There's so many youngsters, who are so talented. We can hire them as interns, freshers, as we grow, take better people, so on and so. So you meet many people on the ground, especially global investors, global network. What is this image of India now that is perceived by? I'm asking from a global perspective, from their point of view. What is the image of India from for these global investors? How are they looking at India's story right now?
So just recently, I think Web Summit in Qatar, right? It was the first event in Asia. And I was talking exactly about this, the India opportunity. And that was a topic that they were very keen to explore. Because they had been, told that global investors, especially the Middle Eastern investors, are very keen on India. So what we spoke about were all the opportunities that we are seeing around us, right?
Okay.
On the ground. And just the macros also, like, the growth numbers, let's say, right? I mean, if you look at the credit lines, you see the spending capacity, the consumption, growth in certain sectors. And I would say, the potential to scale those sectors. Tech development, right? The focus of the government on certain key areas to, push technological advancements in previously ignored industries. So a lot of those things people are also seeing. At least from news, they are getting this information. They're looking at all the reports that, certain sectors are growing. Then they also look at the startups that, in certain sectors, startups have done really well. Then more importantly, they're looking at the next 10 years with India, right? Next 10, 20 years, the education level, the income level, the consumption pattern. As you know, Gen Z is more into consumption. Like, they're not saving at all. They are,
online and
spending.
Stuff like that,
Spending. Everyone is aspiring for a lifestyle, right? And that is driving a different type of growth curve, And that aspiration is not just for brands. That aspiration is for a better life. Because that goes back to the question that you were asking me before also. Why people are coming back. They think in India they can get a better life.
A good life now.
A good life.
Or similar to what they were having.
It's similar to what they were having. Yeah, exactly. So all of those factors combined where, you see these global Indians also coming back. You also see that, people are actively working hard, and the government also, to provide certain stability in people's lives, they're pumping money into the economy. People perception of the country has improved.
Very much.
Right? So all of that, when investors look at it from outside, they feel like, okay, there's a lot of action that is going on. And we are missing out on, and this will only grow for some time at least. Like, this is a good time to invest in this country, because people are very excited on the ground.
And it's a sustainable growth. It's not.
And it's sustainable growth. I mean, it's not something that has been artificially injected or just being pushed, or it's not just
like China to a certain extent was a little bit artificial in some years. When there was a lot of fudging in numbers, because I remember when I used to do research on their stocks or their economy, etc. There's a lot of fudging of numbers, a lot of reports coming, manufacturers fudging a lot of their data. When the reporting.
Hence, you see the bubble bursting also now, right?
The bubble is bursting. So I think that India is more sustainable. I don't think.
I think India.
A negative story anywhere is what.
It's not the sustainability part. It's also the part where does India stand today? It's standing at the beginning of that curve, right? This is the time that you pump money, and if you said like the numbers are good, if the sentiment that people are catching on is good, if this trend continues, then there is money to be made.
And we have maximum youth.
Yeah, maximum youth is there. I think
internet is going rural.
I think the internet penetration has become better. I think also the education levels, or also just the idea that it's not just education. People can do many other things outside of education, which is also helping them become big. Opportunities have expanded in different ways and to different stratas. Middle class is stronger than before. Those numbers have also increased, right? So having a strong, reliable middle class is also important. So a lot of those factors are basically coming into play, and this is election year, So I mean, one thing that investors also look at is the stability of the government, right?
Yeah, it's just going to come.
Yeah, so that also is playing a part
The
in
leadership and stuff.
so that also plays a part in how people perceive what India's next 10 years will look like, right? So the numbers are supporting a good growth, a positive outlook,
Images also created
and the sentiment, right? Like you worked in stock, the sentiment matters.
a lot, yeah.
So I think that is what people are catching on to outside, and that's why they're keenly looking at India. Right? They're trying to understand that when to invest, where to invest, and how much to invest. So that is what I think I also got. Like people were just curious to know this
pretty
part.
interesting.
Yeah.
I hope that image keeps on improving, and it's a real one rather than a fudged one, just to show to the world. And that's what would keep India very, probably their topmost bets to invest in for the next 10 to 20 years, and a long-term bet rather than short-term. So you worked at Bytedance, and there's a lot of news about TikTok and Bytedance right now recently, especially in USA.
Yeah.
Are you in touch with someone in Bytedance? Do you know what's happening in this, in US with the government and stuff like that?
I mean, honestly, not in touch to the point that I know anything like internal that I will know a secret or anything. But having worked in the company, I mean, these things had already, like they were always there. Like these issues regarding data sharing or protection of data and the access of Chinese government to that data. I mean, but I think there's a lot of politics into it also. There's nothing to prove anything. It's all conjecture that what if this happens. So this whole problem that is happening is what if. What if tomorrow the Chinese government asks you for data? Can you say no? So a lot of it has to do with the politics of it. Just imagine, right? We've had access to Chinese products for a while.
Yeah.
Xiaomi and whenever all those.
From toys to everything, like we've been using.
Even that was being monitored for a while. Right? All of these things are monitored. This kind of trade is always monitored. Those products are always monitored by both sides of the government. Like the Chinese side, Indian side, they all look at these things. Exchange of information. This is very important part of trade and economics, etc. Like all of this is very important. Now, the thing is that the global scenario is changing a little bit, right? There is a lot of destabilization on US side, on Chinese side. They're trying to tell their audience or their citizens that we are right, we are strong, we are right, we are strong. So a lot of that is posturing is happening in terms of data sharing to governments. I mean, honestly, what is happening with X also. Indian government asking X to, give data, asking Facebook to give data. So it's not something which is only Chinese thing to do, US also does that, India also does that. Tech companies are always on radar of governments. Because precisely of the data part, right?
You cannot misuse the data, so that
misuse and sometimes governments also ask, like governments are, so let's say in a country like US, government can be asked to be more accountable than other governments. Like in China, it's very difficult to, put them in a position to be accountable.
Yeah.
In India, it's a different scenario. In US, the protests that are happening, they're questioned way more in publicly.
Accountable and responsibility levels are higher.
Yeah, so even there, people question that how many times has the government asked for data? And what is the government using the data for? So it's not just a US-China thing, it's internal politics also plays a lot of role here. Right? So talking about what Bytedance has done great work in technology, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Built an amazing product, and they didn't build it for the government. They've any other techie, like the founder is a techie guy through and through. He is happy to innovate. They've invested the most in AI. They've done something that Western companies were not able to do with all the resources they had. So it's a great success story, to be very honest, like no doubts about it. It's unfortunate that, the company's origin and the nationality is playing such a big role in people doubting them in this way. And I believe there's a lot of politics to it, to be very honest. Being and worked in the company, I know that people were obsessed with product. Right? It was not like, there was never a question of politics. And I remember engineers being very fixated on Zuckerberg, on Bezos. Like there are posters of these people, quotes by these people. They are like through and through, fans of those big guys, because they made it before them. And I remember there was a time when Zuckerberg had made some statements on TikTok, and all the engineers were like listening to what he's saying, because it matters what he says.
They take it to heart.
They really take it to heart. If he criticizes the product even a little bit, and if let's say, if let's say Meta makes or launches anything which is a competitor to any of the Bytedance products, they are super excited. It's a big validation. Oh my God, they did this, So that whole rivalry though does not exist, because, when I was in Bytedance, the motto that we used to live by, that was all on all of our cups and t-shirts, and all the merchandise was, it's always day one. And that's Jeff Bezos' quote, that he uses for Amazon.
It's always day one.
Yeah, it's always day one. So I think that, the motive has always been innovation, undoubtedly. I think the other issues that are coming up with data privacy, and honestly, these data privacy issues are not just limited to Bytedance. Meta has been fined multiple times. Google has been fined. And it's not, Apple has gotten into issues multiple times. So it's not a Chinese company issue, it's a tech issue. It's a tech company issue, and the politics is sort of playing an interesting role here. It's the geopolitics is also, that's unfortunate, but yeah, that's true.
Okay. So tell us now a little bit more about what you do today. So we found a circle is an angel network, right? I want to understand, and probably even the audience would be keen to understand, how does an angel network work? What are the things that goes behind the doors, right? When you're analyzing a deal, when you're pitching to your investors, etc. So how does the function work? What is an angel network? How does it work?
So angel network also, I was also introduced to the whole system of an angel network pretty much when I started working at Building, we founder. Who is an angel, right? Like angel is a blessing to an entrepreneur. They bet on them when no one else would, right? Taking very risky bets on early stage investors, essentially is an angel. So what has been happening in the ecosystem is that usually angels would be people who have money from either generational wealth or something that they've accumulated over time, and they are in a position to, take that risky bet that if something goes to zero after 1 year, 2 years, or even 5 years or 10 years, they are okay with it. It's something that doesn't bother them. So far, I think before we found there were a couple of other angel networks already in the ecosystem. The problem was that a lot of them used to operate in a silo, right? The flow of information used to be limited to mostly a group of people. We were also thinking that we should not create such barriers. We should let people discuss everything openly and have that transparency and a community feeling that, it's easier to get into investing. So we were very, very friendly to first-time investors. People who were not aware of angel investing, but they wanted to. And this is 2020, so the bull run had started. Investors were investing. Yeah, people were investing crazy amounts in startups, giving crazy valuations. All of these are market cycles, and
that hype was created.
That hype was,
and because of COVID
definitely,
also.
yeah. So that whole thing that now the world is changing.
Startup is
people. Startup is a new thing, and then people will go online. Now life is going to change. People are going to change, and there are people who are building. Yeah, tech is going to be the big thing, and everyone is building something that is hinged on tech being, the base of every innovation, more than before. and all of that. So we also began during that time. We believe that it's important that as an angel you are actively involved with the startup, right? So that it's not just the money that you give, because at that point of time money was everywhere. Money is not difficult to get anymore. You can get money, but what you need is right money, smart money, money that can help you beyond just the bank balance. They can help you in opening up a network, or giving you the connection that could help you build a business.
I agree.
So we thought that this should be the focus of our angel network, and hence we began with doing shout outs on LinkedIn for people whoever is interested in becoming an angel. And we used to just teach people, honestly. Like, a lot of our first few months was doing webinars and telling people what is angel investing and how much money you need to have to be an angel investor, what are the things you need to keep in mind, how can we help you. Right? That was one part of it. The second part was getting the startups, right? Getting startups where the founders are sincere, they're actually doing something innovative, somewhere where we can at least put small percentage of money. So I think for the first 1 year, we were not very keen on taking leads in companies. We were just like, okay, this is a good company, it's getting funded, so let's it's a good opportunity for you as an angel, first time angel, to put money there. And if you think you can actually work with this founder, we will facilitate a dialogue between you and this person, and we'll figure out how you can work with them. So that is how we sort of started building this network of angels across different geographies. We didn't, and at that point of time, it was completely organic. Why we were getting people from US, from Europe, from Singapore, Dubai, it was all organic. So we realized that there's actually a big audience of Indians sitting outside who are looking at this India growth story, and they want to participate. So we were very interested. Well, we used to do so many calls. Like, I think I used to do 20 calls a day, talking to random strangers who had contacted us and just talking to them how to become an investor, telling them all the technicalities of becoming an investor, and one-on-one calls. And that's how we actually started building this network, like a WhatsApp group, and then
sigh of right now you took that sigh of
so many calls. I can't my days to start and end with calls, and I used to be like, okay, already 9 p.m. Okay, already 10 p.m. Okay. Used to do talk to so many people. So that's how we now have we built so many WhatsApp groups, and that's how we started engaging with angels. Our work was to get 2 to 3 good startup deals every month. And of course, we were not consistent back then. We were still figuring. We didn't have a team. It was just me, Neeraj, Saurabh, who were working on it. And later on, Gaurav had come. Later on, a year and a half later, Vikas had come. So we were fairly, a lean team trying to get as many startups funded. And the market was moving so fast. We would lose on deals in a day or two. We'll talk to a founder. We'll be like, okay, please come and pitch. And they would pitch, but then they'll be like, okay, sorry, my round got subscribed, now I can't take money. So we ran into many issues like that, where the documentation we had to work on. We had to standardize everything, standardize the process of documentation, standardize the process of getting a company, because when we started, companies they would not wait for you. They are getting money from everywhere, and they didn't know us. So why would they wait for us? No one would wait for us. So those were initial struggles that we went through. But yeah, now we of course have a system where, we try to get 2 to 3 companies every month. We get them funded. We are pretty much sector and stage agnostic, because our angels are a combination of experts who have worked in different industries. And there's also a FOMO investor. There's always a FOMO investor who wants to just look at good opportunities and put money as it comes to
where
them.
he feels it's good.
Yeah. So now we are pretty set in our processes. Since then, since starting off as an angel network, now we have a fund also, a domestic fund, a global gift city fund, a recently launched VC fund, which we are still working on. So now we see that, now that we've built a good enough portfolio and we have multiple instruments, we can continue the momentum of, putting some amount of money in every company, and we have different angels or LPs to back us. So yeah, that is pretty much it. So if you're an angel, if you're a new investor and you have a couple of lakhs with you and you want to understand how you can contribute to this company, to a startup, you can always come to us and we'll tell you how you can start your journey as an angel investor, and what are the legalities that come with it, what are the documentations that come with it. Yeah.
Got it. And what does your day-to-day operations look like now?
So yeah, I essentially look at the deal curation, sourcing part, wherein
Okay.
whenever a startup comes to us, it's going to be my team that talks to them, taking first few calls and understanding if this is the right stage for us to enter into this company, if it fits our broad thesis, if we feel like we can back this founder. Even today, we prefer taking we prefer investing once there is some subscription in the round, because we do volumes. So when you do volumes, you can't do a lot of detailed DD. A lead work is difficult to do. So we prefer going once, there is a lead. But yeah, sometimes we do take lead, very rarely. But what happens is that because we also do up rounds, so up rounds become an interesting thing for us, because then angels get very excited that okay, we can put money in a bridge round or something like that. So that is also where we mobilize our efforts. So yeah, my work is to talk to founders and understand which company can get funded or build a pipeline for investment, from which instrument, etc. We figure that out over time. Yeah.
So in this, there is no need of a IC or something.
There is an IC.
Committee.
There's an IC.
There is an IC also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has to be, because we still vet all the companies. Like, we get so much volume that sometimes when we are building pipelines, we need to get approval from certain investors who work with us very closely and tell them that these are the deals.
The investment committee.
Yeah, that these are the deals that we're working on. So these would be very active investors, they would be sector experts, there would be people, who work with our team in general. And together we decide that, okay, in what priority we need to fund a company, or if something is a no-go, then we just veto it.
Yeah. Understood. All right. This is now, coming to the last leg of this conversation. One question which I like to ask from all of my guests, right, which is about money, which we briefly spoke, but a little bit more in depth. What is your first money lesson that you have learned? When was it, and from whom it was?
Oh, okay. My first money lesson. So besides the one that I already spoke about. Okay. Okay, so I think the first thing, my parents only. I think once I took a job, there's a change of attitude that happens, once the child has a job, right? Like, if you're in college, you're still taking pocket money. But once you get a job, then you are, a self-earner and all of that. So that is when I think I got some lessons that you're supposed to like save X percentage, like 50% of your salary needs to be saved. Right, and it has to be then invested in, like, every 3 months you need to invest into some appreciating asset. Right, that is something that my parents always told me, you should not build this habit of earn and then spend everything. Don't do that. Be judicious about your spending and live like lesser than your means is what I was told. That especially, and this actually helped me a lot when I was in China, because I had to be very calculative of the part of how much to spend on my rent. Like, for example, you should never spend more than 20% of your salary on rent.
Okay.
At least I lived by that. So don't spend more than 20%. Maybe in different geographies, like in Mumbai it could be different, it could be like 30% ho jayega, but keep that in mind. And then always try to save rest of the salary that you have with you, 50%, save it, and then you spend rest of it. So you actually start living very judiciously if you follow those numbers. Otherwise, I realized that it's very easy to earn and burn, so I didn't want to get into that cycle. So that way I used to ration out my splurges also. Okay, do I have enough to splurge right now or no? And also, I think the second part that I think was a big change for me was from being an employee to a business owner in some senses. When you have that change, that because I had periods of no salary or less salary when you start off a business. You are...
And we found out.
we found her, and even in between, like when I left Bytedance and I was doing consulting, that is inconsistent sort of money that comes to you. It's not a monthly salary. So a lot of those things that, how you're supposed to ration out. Yeah, you have to ration out that, okay, what is your priority today? I think it was over a period of time that I started working on these philosophies that, okay, let me say that I'm living in Mumbai, so I don't think I ever want to own a house here. I'm in no hurry to own a house. I'm in no hurry to own a vehicle. Because one key advantage of living in a city is that you have access to good infra. Like I can always get a cheaper transportation. I can always have, living on rent is way more sustainable than, saving all the money and put it into a very expensive property.
Which does not appreciate much.
Which does not appreciate much. So fixating on appreciating assets, that even when I save and I splurge, I want to put it somewhere where there is good appreciation, or where there is, I know that I've not gone into a big deficit of some sort, living debt free. And I know that the whole concept of, because billionaires all live on debt, but
there's a concept of smart debt and
bad smart debt and bad debt, correct. So that whole concept that, that's also a transition. You have to have a X number of wealth in order to go into the good debt zone that I'm waiting for. But before that, I want to avoid the debt trap. It's a debt trap. A lot of middle class gets sucked into it. So that I am not in any hurry of getting sucked into. So just these couple of things that, I feel have helped me to live comfortably, I would say.
So there's a concept which I had learned, which was called 20-40-40. So which was by Grant Cardone, who's a US sales coach, one of the world's largest sales trainer. And someone whom I have looked up to a lot, and I've really taken a lot of online mentoring from his just free YouTube videos. Just in my early days of starting LFS, like 4 years back approx. There's a concept of 20-40-40, where you first general mindset of a person, of a guy or girl who started earning, is they start spending and they save later. जो बचा कुचा रहता है, that they'll save. They'll spend first, then they'll save later. But his concept is 20-40-40. Your first 20% you need to save.
Pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first. So you have to look out for yourself first. Before you even pay your rent, you need to pay yourself first. Before you pay your electricity bill, you have to pay yourself first. So 20% you look after yourself first. Pay yourself. 40% you go for the your what is this? All the necessities, like your rent, EMIs, some loans, etc. And the balance 40%. You invest in yourself, you want to spend on your luxuries, on your whatever shopping, movies, etc. You do that with the 40%. But that is it will get used. So it's a consumption again. 20% you need to pay yourself, you need to save and invest first in an appreciating asset again. Or something which can build a passive income for you in the near term.
Similar to my concept, I would say.
So that is something which I had also learned, I think, around 4 years back.
I think one more thing that I forgot, and this is something that is so very recent, I think, that is to invest, but not just invest in an appreciating asset, also invest in yourself in a lot of ways, I think, and that could be through experiences, some experiences that help in mental growth, or like some sort of, doing things that you haven't done before, like challenging yourself, like a podcast, challenging yourself in some way, right? Like, I think those are things that are worth investing in.
Worth investing.
Right, and not just traveling. A lot of people are obsessed with traveling.
They think traveling is the only experience.
Yeah, but that's not true. There could be many things that you could do, right? You challenge yourself physically, like do mountain climbing, do some sort of build a good habit. Like let's say I've been building this habit of swimming, let's say, right? Like, and I call it a habit because I'm not doing it just to learn it as a skill. I want to be able to perfect it, and something that I can do my lifelong. So this is something that will stay with me
and
to keep me fit.
Teach you something maybe for your
Yeah.
health, maybe
Yeah.
for your career. But
Yeah.
some part it will stick with you throughout your life.
Exactly. So, investing in building good habits. Investing in reading as well. I mean, no amount of money can buy time. So I think with good money, one thing you can do is
You can buy.
judicious
That's
with
true.
your time.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
some of those things that when you say investing, it's not just investing in
Yeah.
gold or real estate, right?
Yeah.
It's also investing in yourself in a lot of ways, and that is to help live healthy. Read good stuff, taking out time for yourself. I think a lot of those things I've been doing recently, and I think that is I think it has been helping me a
So there was
lot.
this one quote which I had recently heard in Raj Shamani's podcast where he said, "Experience is cheap, reflection is expensive.
Yeah,
So experience, khali jaake you experience it, and
doesn't
you're
mean
done.
anything. Yeah.
Once you start reflecting it, and
Yeah.
that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
That experience, though we keep on experiencing so many things, you go to a good restaurant and you're traveling, so you're experiencing.
Yeah.
But उसके बाद क्या तुमने बैठ के सोचा कि इससे तुमने क्या सीखा?
Yeah.
Did you
Or how
reflect?
privileged you are.
How privileged you are, how
Yeah.
grateful you are, how lucky you are.
Yeah.
You got to see something.
Yeah.
Probably 5 years back, you would not be in a position to do that.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from that experience? I think that is also a good way to invest in your own self without you are just spending time with yourself. That what did you learn on?
Yeah, because often I see people who have the money to spend on experiences, but those experiences don't add to anything in terms
They
of
don't
growth.
add value. Yeah.
In terms of growth, they don't
Yeah.
add any value.
Yeah.
People are still that close-minded. People don't change anything in themselves after that. So I feel that though you could have done, without spending money. Also.
That's why experience is cheap. But
Exactly.
reflection and getting some value addition is expensive.
Yeah. Exactly.
With
So
some serious stuff, huh?
yeah, I know. Ending at a serious note.
All right, let's go with the rapid fire, Bhavna. Be quick, be rapid. All right. First question. One turn off in a startup founder. Turn off, I don't mean in that sense, but what you don't like in a startup founder, which you reject.
I think intellectual arrogance, that I know better than you, or don't tell me what to do. Yeah.
All right. Second, one turn on in a founder.
I think someone who's willing to listen and take advice. Yeah, so just opposite of what I said earlier. Someone who's appreciates your advice, right? And actually takes it and does something about it. Nothing better than that.
This is so girl thing also, I feel.
It's not a girl. It's like, I feel a lot of people ask for your time. For example, I'm sure people ask for your time. But how do you feel when they take your time? You spend like an hour coaching someone and then they do something opposite. Then you feel like...
I have an amazing example to this. So I had met a founder who had recently appeared on Shark Tank season 3 also. I'm forgetting the brand's name and the founder's name. I met him 3 times. And small interactions. One, we had a proper detailed meeting in Mumbai. He is basically from some other city, I think. I don't remember. So 2 times I met him at an event. One in Delhi, one in Nagpur. And then 3rd time he again came to meet me in Mumbai after remembering our conversations that let me meet him if he can help me raise funds or something. I told him that this is not a sustainable business model. After talking to him in the first instance, asked him a few questions on the commercials and on the number front. I found it a little bit dicey. Okay, this is thoda unsustainable जा रहा है. Please work on this. या change कर थोड़ा, pivot. Just change your model a little bit. Similarly thing I told him in the second instance. 3rd meeting also I told him the same thing because till then it was not yet worked upon. I'm like, now I'm like internally I decided I'm not going to meet him till the time he's not done this thing because he's literally wasting the time, right? And in Shark Tank also, people liked his product, people liked what he's doing, all the sharks liked it. But when it came to the numbers, that was the same thing what these sharks told him. And after that, I just messaged him that I saw your episode, it was good. Sorry to hear that you did not get the deal or something. I asked him, so have you worked on that? So he's like, no. मैं भाई तेरे को सब लोग बोल रहे हैं वही चीज पे work कर and you're still not doing. मैं तो छोड़ like those guys are also saying who have invested in hundreds of companies. At least listen to them, do something about it. Don't take it word to word, but work on that particular thing. So yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, third question. Choose between the two, Avinya VC or WFC. Both are your babies, I would say.
I think WFC.
WFC.
Yes.
First baby is special.
Always.
Okay. Fourth question. Given a chance to lead strategy at Microsoft, or or WFC that you're doing right now, what would you do?
WFC any day.
WFC.
Yeah.
All right.
Big proponent of doing things on your own and making them big. I think it's, if I had to choose a corporate career, I would have done a long time ago. I just think maybe, I don't know. I am right now very pro of the fact that, building something big yourself. And I think it's from both perspective of growth and also building wealth in some senses. I think taking chance on yourself, I think that has worked
Investing in
out.
yourself again.
Yeah.
Taking a bet on yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
Could change after 10 years, I don't know, but right now I feel like this.
Okay. Fifth question. When and where was your last vacation?
My last vacation was in Jan. For a couple of days, I was in US, spending time with my family. So for me, vacation is spending time with loved ones who have not met in a while. And I think I was able to do that. So that was, yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So before we wrap up, this is one question which I again like to ask all my guests.
Yeah.
What is that one piece of advice that you would give to your 20-year-old self today?
I would tell her, believe in yourself more. Don't doubt yourself. I think it comes from, because my 20-year-old self, I was so I had full of self-doubt because I was leaving biochem. I didn't know what to do. So I was in a very weird place in life where I was thinking of taking a break here, which not a lot of people do in India. And it was a big step. So yeah, so be confident and don't doubt yourself. You'll figure it out,
Figuring it out. Yeah, that's a very key aspect.
Yeah.
To those teenage years, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't try different things because they are scared of doing something completely different or even believing in yourself. Like imagine even for yourself, right? I mean, if you knew back then, 10 years ago, that everything will work out, you would be so less stressed and be enjoying your life a little bit more. That is what I feel that my 20-year-old self, I would say that, enjoy a little bit more and don't doubt yourself. You'll be fine, Things work out.
Things work out.
Yeah.
अंत में सब अच्छा ही होता है.
Yeah.
नहीं होता है तो पिक्चर अभी बाकी है मेरे दोस्त.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Great, Bhawna. It was mind-blowing conversation.
Thank you.
Really liked it what we discussed and the diversity that you have been through or you have gone and what you brought to this conversation. I think that was amazing. So thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Coming and thanks a lot for doing this with us. Before we end, you can probably tell us something. We went a little bit on a serious discussion also.
Yes.
Knowledgeable discussion rather
Yes,
than serious.
yes.
Tell us something fun in Chinese to wrap it up. And how did you like this podcast? Maybe you can tell that in Chinese and then explain it in English.
Well, I can do the exact translation. So, 我很喜欢这个 I don't know the podcast, how to say podcast in Chinese. So, 我很喜欢这个 podcast. 我的新欢是很好的. So the experience was very good.
Also like,
yes, it is. Yes. So so I love this podcast and my experience was good. So yeah. And honestly, I'm surprised I remember the vocabulary now.
How do you say thank you in Chinese?
谢谢.
CCA.
Yeah.
CCA, Bhawna.
谢谢.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot, Bhawna.
Thank you.
Okay. What's up, guys? Before I sign off, I would love to know whether you really liked this video or not. If you did, click on the like button, click on the subscribe button, click on the notification bell so that whenever our video goes live, you are notified first. This would be a really small task for you. But trust me, this would help us a lot in spreading this knowledge world over and helping people level up their knowledge. Signing off, Devansh Lakhani.